What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Runaways YouTube channel. Today we have a gameplay video and kind of showcase of our U.S. Nationals finalist Fi deck list. We're gonna show 3 games, gonna do some commentary, kind of explain some of the decisions that were made. Right off the bat, we're playing against Defy. I chose to go first. Uh, Always prefer going first in the matchup. It's pretty easy to leak damage and still set up a card for a powerful second turn. And I don't like being on the receiving end of that. So here I'm just thinking about, do I want to push, see if I can leak some? Kind of what's the best way to do that? Usually when you have a second Phoenix Flame and E-Strike in hand, I'm immediately thinking, how can I play this E-Strike and bottom that Phoenix Flame to get some value? We start with the starter. With him only blocking 2 there, it kind of starts to give me some questions. Does he not have any 3 blocks? Is he saving the 3 block he does have for the weapon or the second attack, which is the case here? That just makes it harder for us to mask. We'd have to have a blue plus like um, Flame Call Awakening to really make things hard. So we just cycle away that flame, get a new card, and we get 2 chip there, and we're setting an Artivore, which is actually a pretty good spot to be. The Artivore drawer is pretty fortunate. And then we draw into a pretty crazy hand here. Belittle, Flame Call Awakening, and Artivore all play super well together. So I'm immediately just thinking like, I don't want to be blocking. If I don't have to. We obviously want to deny draw triggers. Like here, the Snatch is threatening 2 draws with a card in hand and Snapdragon, so it's very easy armor block just to cover that up. Again, our hand is pretty insane, so we want to keep it if we can. So one kind of neat trick I like to do if I have a Flame Claw Awakening Artivore turn, um, and another relevant attack in hand. Like if that take the tempo was blue, I would just Artivore immediately and banish the blue. But here you're going to see me sacrifice 1 damage on the Belittle by not Artivoring, so I can first play the Flame Call Awakening to tutor a flame, and then we can banish that Phoenix Flame to the Artivore, just to kind of maximize our damage potential here. We'd like to get a second flame in the graveyard at some point, but I don't have any issue banishing one away. Even the second one I wouldn't be opposed to. And here we draw pretty well again. We don't quite have the money to pay for Mounting Anger, Ember Blade, and Take the Tempo. Um, but getting 2 reds off of that Artivore is pretty insane. This is going to be a very high damage turn. And we're going to threaten Mask a couple times. So here we're having an attack for 5, threatening Mask. He, of course, blocks it. Especially on an Artivore turn, you definitely want to deny Mask triggers if you can. We are going to threaten it again, though. So he either needs to kind of decide if he's going pretty much full block out with his hand or if he's going to try and swing back. And right there he commits 5, so it looks like he's going full block out. He doesn't know my card in hand, so there's definitely room to be pretty punished by this. If we had like a Lava Burst or something, any 0 cost really, we can go weapon Phoenix Flame and that to threaten Mask again, so we'd end up getting his Shuko as well on the flame. But here with this card's gone, I just want to play this Take the Tempo over the weapon because it's +3 damage, and like setting take the tempo, we're instead gonna banish and get a free card that way, ideally. Um, he has a sync below, which is pretty good in this spot. I don't usually play syncs in the matchup. I don't think it's too unreasonable though. Um, he definitely gets really good value out of it there. But now he basically just gave up his entire hand and said, is basically just asking like, can I keep the tempo for the rest of the game? And that is very much what our fire list is built to do. So in this spot, I'm kind of just in position to keep looping him. Like he has to give up. He's used 3 armor already, so he has to give up a lot to stop my mass triggers. So feeling great at this point. The hand I draw isn't amazing. I think this turn you get to see some of the flame scale furnace interactions. So I pitch a red for this flame call, thinking that when I draw this Phoenix Flame, I can now trigger the furnace to get 2 resources to get the weapon swing. I think there I was just checking to make sure I have a flame in the graveyard. Yep, so we play the first one to get our 3rd Draconic Chain Link. We're sequencing this way just so we can threaten Mask with Blaze as a 4 attack. It's just slightly harder to block. Typically we'll get like a 3 block plus the last Furnace block, which would be good. Or they could just block the flame as well. We'll see what they do. Seems a little odd to block with the snatch there. That kind of makes me think either they had no way to use it or they're planning to maybe block with another card and just throw a snatch at me. So I think here I decide just to pass. Again, because I have all the tempo, I just want to be threatening 1 to 2 mass triggers a turn. So throwing the Blaze for 4 is okay here, but I'd much rather save it to keep that threat next turn. Here we draw a pretty insane hand. We get a little punished for pitching away that flame. If it was in the discard pile here, this hand would be pretty insane. But we have the blue. We have 1/1 cost, which is always ideal. So you can go 1 cost weapon, either 0 cost and get your flame. So this hand just has a lot of flexibility. We kind of get to see what our opponent does. Oh, I guess I misspoke there. It looks like we have 2 flames in the graveyard. Maybe we didn't furnace last turn. I must have missed that. Um, yeah, this hand's just great if we have 2 flames. This is definitely one of my favorite plays, just opening with Mounting Anger, kind of saying, here's this guaranteed, usually +1 damage threat at the start of the chain to kind of bait some blocks, and then going on to threaten Mask later in the chain. So we throw Emberblade just because it's kind of like the most known entity. It's also usually efficient to cover with the 1 card 3 block, and we'd rather get that block out of the way early so we can get to 3 chain links hitting. So here, same thing. We just want to threaten on the 4, especially after getting the Furnace. It's pretty high value. We get the Mass Trigger here. Yep, so we do have 2 flames, and we're going to put 1 to the bottom and go in for 7. He gave us the Mass Trigger, so it definitely seems like he wants his 4-card hand. And I'm very happy to set this That All You Got. I have a pretty tremendous health lead. Off of 4 cards with a Mass Trigger, Defy can definitely push like 20 or so. But I feel very comfortable here. And I'm hoping that I can use this That All You Got to deny 1 Mass Trigger. I draw 3 blues though, so I'm pretty comfortable just blocking whatever the 3rd swing is. Again, just to deny the Mass Trigger, and then the hand plays fine. We get to do the classic two card 7 with a starter and then a blue pitch for weapon plus flame. And then if it works out, we can keep this Soul Bead Strike just to come in for another 2 at the end. Yep, so we're hoping for a 2 base or a 2 attack or less to get to a 4 card hand off of that you got, but we don't get it, which is fine. Again, our health is like very, very high. We're going to threaten not quite lethal, but we do threaten a mask, and we have a D-react set. We still have 2 armor. We're in a great spot here. And it's really all came down to that big Art of War turn where either our opponent didn't have a hand that could push back, or they just chose to block, giving us pretty much tempo for the whole game. Okay, so they chose that spot to kind of try and shut down the mass trigger. Again, if we have any attack really set, we get to kind of punish that and threaten it again, and now they're on either 3 cards or we're presenting lethal. But it's fine. We're not worried about it. Just gonna chip away. They're in the same spot where they have this 4 card hand. Usually means they only threaten the mask once. Okay, so they play Mounting Anger. This is one of the cases where that threat early in the chain link isn't super significant. Like even giving up the +1, it's so hard for them to present lethal this turn. So I think I end up ignoring it. Yeah, I do. They also only have 1 card in hand, so it has to be exactly a 0 cost, or they'd need to pay 2 to pick up a flame, which would be great for us anyway. So they belittle here without a reveal, which is not very strong. It seems like kind of just a desperation move to threaten the mask. Okay, and now we'll see what we're using to threaten the mask. That's interesting. So I guess they had missed the trigger on Mounting Anger. They should have banished the Lava Lane for +1. Um, and unless there's no Minnowism in the deck, that's weird that they didn't reveal it just to get the +1. Or for you get a full weapon swing out of it, actually. That was a weird turn. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe they were just giving up. But we get the that's all you got value, and we have 4 blues in hand, but they're at 5, so we should be fine with our 2 mass trigger threats and a bunch of small chip. So I think I'm aiming to threaten the mask with a 1 attack. It basically, unless they have like, that's all you got, it guarantees an inefficient block because they only have the 2 armor blade break available, and there aren't any cards that block for 1. So yeah, he just gives up. I think he gave up last turn. Yep, so that was pretty ideal for the 5 mirror. Okay, so here we pair into Visceri. We use the same equipment suite. I'd like to go first still, again, just trying to chip Visceri can be a bit scary when they get to go first, whether it's stacking Rune Chance or dealing arcane damage. Just showing what I'm siding out here. The yellow Belittle and red Soaring Strike are my kind of like two standard cuts for the aggro decks. Okay, so we opened with one of my favorite openers. Having two go again attacks, a blue and snatch, is a lot of fun. It means we get to threaten the mask. We also threaten 3/3 attacks, which makes it pretty tempting to block. Which means if we are getting those early blocks, then we get to snatch at the end, chip some damage, and draw a card. We'll see if it happens here, though. So he actually chooses to let 4 leak, which could be smart if he is just waiting to make sure he can block the mask. But as soon as he has to commit two blocks to that 3 attack, I'm pretty excited to throw the snatch. If he covered it with just 1 3 block, I think I would just Arsenal there. He denies us the draw, but we got 4 chip. His crown is gone, and we got 1 armor on the grasp. That's pretty insane for turn 1. So it's really 7 chip, and he lost his card filter. Let's see. So we draw into a fine hand. There's nothing wrong with it. We can afford to block with a card and still play Belittle, keep a starter. Um, this is just vanilla damage. I'm just checking here to understand what occurred. I didn't see the Arcanite chart. So we took 2 arcane damage. We have no AB. And then we're being presented with 7. And again, vanilla damage, don't really care about unless you can't really use your cards or you have too many blues and one of them blocks for 3. But this hand is fine. It's not amazing. We only are able to threaten 5 attacks here, so we can't quite threaten double mask depending on when he blocks. And he does choose to wait for the 3rd one. So here actually, instead of pitching for Belittle to get a weapon swing in, I choose to just throw the Soul Beat Strike. It's kind of a win-win. If he doesn't block, we trigger mask, we get go again. And either we're throwing a finisher or we should get a blue for weapon plus Phoenix Flame. But if he blocks like he did there, I'm very happy just to set Belittles. That's something I pretty often look to do. If my hand plays fairly well without the Belittle, I usually like to save it for when I really need it because of how late on blues the deck is. So here again, he's just presenting vanilla damage. He's certainly developing a bit of a health lead. This is a pretty strong turn. But we have no blue again, but we have access to 2 Belittles. We could potentially play them both and use E-Strike to bottom one of the minnows. We'll see what we actually do here. We have access to a few mass triggers. And it's nice having the E-Strike for when we get to the 3rd chain link, as a really flexible card. If it's our last attack for the round and the last 2 hit, it's nice to kind of pump it to 7 to either say, you're going to give me your hand and I get the tempo, or this is now just a snatch for 7 and I'm going to draw a card and still have a strong round next turn. Okay, so he's pretty much committed to stopping our mass triggers. Uh, Possibly because his hand doesn't play well. Possibly because it's healthy. Oh, so he actually takes it back. Okay. So this is exactly what I was talking about. So he lets the weapon hit. We now have 2 hits. I only had 2 Draconic Chain Links, so I couldn't grab the flame. So we just throw the 7 there, and basically it's a lose-lose for our opponent. He chooses to let us draw. And we get a pretty insane draw here. Again, we got Belittle, Flame Call, and Ardor all together. That's kind of funny. So here I'm thinking, is this Soul Bead Strike worth protecting? Uh, and should I throw 6 armor at it, or should I just let him have it? I choose to give up the armor. This hand should push enough damage that I'm making him block because I'm presenting lethal. So I don't need the mask as much here. I am likely giving up a damage on the Shuko block. But by keeping the Soulbait Strike, we're going plus on that. So here we do that play again where we lead with Belittle, we hold off on Ardivore until we can get the extra Phoenix Flame from Flameclaw Awakening just to maximize damage. Uh, we draw into Blaze again, which I think we did last game as well, which is pretty sick. It's got to be one of the best Ardivore draws. This 5-go again is way above rate. So here I believe I'm counting Draconic Chain Links. I don't like getting rid of my last Phoenix Flame, but sometimes it makes sense to this late in the game. So he's at 2. He has 3 armor available. So if I just play the Soulbeat Strike, it doesn't really accomplish anything. Soulbeat Strike plus the Phoenix Flame does get a 1-card block. I'm at 15, and he has 3 cards. I think that's a reasonable play. Here I choose to draw a card and kind of commit to the Snapdragons. If he has like the Mauve Sky, Shrill, plus weapon play on his 3 cards, that could be a bit of an issue. I'm actually not sure if I, in hindsight, fully agree with what I did. It's probably, I think it's probably correct. Yeah, because even if I draw something I can't play, I always have the Soul Bead follow up. So I'm always taking 3 cards. Yeah, this just ends the game. This was correct. Visceri can't really do much off of 2 cards, and they really can't do much off of 1. It also requires them to have a 3 block here, which they do. Um, but yeah, so I'm out of Phoenix Flames here. It shouldn't really matter as long as I can find a starter. Giving up the Snapdragons could have potentially been greedy. Like I could have just gone E-Strike Go again, giving up the Flame, and then throwing the Soulbeat Strike. I think in hindsight, that's probably what I would do. Because I gave up my Flame, so I don't have the option to convert a blue to a starter. All right, and we take that one down too. Okay, so we have our third and final game here against Bravo Showstopper. Same equipment suite. It's usually the case. The sideboard's a little different. We take out Ardivore. The game plan there is really just to kind of deny his disruption crush effects. We're looking to play more of a grindy game, kind of just outvaluing over time with more efficient attacks. Here we have my favorite start again, just a couple go again attacks and a snatch. Especially with the Mounting Eager to start, it's really nice. So we get a Stauncher. If this was like a sync, that'd be really good for him, but him committing 2 cards is very exciting for me. It means I'm either getting his cards or armor on the Mask Momentum threat, with the weapon into two Phoenix Flames. And it almost definitely means that the Snatch is going to either hit or take 4 armor, which is, again, pretty insane to start the game. So he takes the first one. This one's coming in for 2, so we probably get a block, yep. And now we make him decide, like, do you want 4 less armor, or do you want to leak the damage and have me draw a card? And we get the armor. In my experience, that's the most common play that I see opponents make. I'm pretty ecstatic when I see it happen, though. It just means all of my future mass triggers and snatch effects are so much harder to stop. Okay, so here we have Hammer buffed with Terror Thunder. So he's starting to discard 2 cards. We have a Sink Below, which is pretty nice, but we can only block with 1 card. I'm not actually sure what I ended up doing here. The nice thing about Terror Thunder is that you get to choose your 2 discards. So I think that's kind of what I'm thinking through here. I really try to prioritize not giving up armor in this matchup until I absolutely have to, or I have a very strong pivot turn to kind of close out the game. Yep, so here I decide priority is just getting the Sink Below and Arsenal. So now the next dominate attack, I'm able to use that and a card from hand to block and pivot off of that. Okay, so we're just playing a disable here. Okay, so we activated Bravo. Playing disable with dominate. This is like dream scenario. Disable threatens to take the Arsenal card. My Arsenal card is a Sink Below, so I just play it. This hand is actually pretty nice. I don't think it's unreasonable to sink something. I was kind of just fine with it. Um, Basically just planning to go 3-3-3 and then pick up a flame because we have 2 in the graveyard and sinking one of those away. Either for +2 if we're threatening mask, or just drawing a card and then setting that card. Okay, takes the first 3. That's pretty common. It's pretty standard to let the first one hit. There's just quickly debating, like, is there any merit to using the E-Strike for a bigger threat? Ended up not really thinking so, and I don't think there is. So he's using a crown here. He's going for a big turn. We're pretty locked in on this line. There's not really anything else to do. Gonna choose draw a card, so we have something in a set. Get another E-Strike, which is fine. If we found a Sink Below there, it'd be pretty insane with his 5-card hand coming up. So we chip away a little bit. The health lead isn't super significant, but he's down to 1 armor, so we've actually done quite a bit of damage to him. This hand's a little scary. So he's playing a Crippling Crush, which is pretty strong. Discarding 2 is definitely not what you want to be doing. We're pretty fortunate to find a Sink Below here, allowing for a very efficient 2 armor block. Pretty much every game we're looking to block 4 with the Furnace plus shoot go at some point. And it's just very efficient the way we're able to do it here. Without the Sink, it would have been a lot more problematic. Because we also really don't want to give up the mask. So it probably would have been something like just let the Crippling Crush hit, E-Strike for 7 and set a card. Yeah, that Sink Below is actually super impactful there. Okay, and here we have a pretty great hand. Flame Call, Awakening, and A-Strike make for a really strong combo, allowing you to have an extra Phoenix Flame again to E-Strike away. This is me just not realizing I have priority. Hopefully I figure it out soon. There we go. Okay, that's the first one hit. Again, that's very standard. Because of the threat of mass momentum, it usually makes sense to see, can you block the second one efficiently? And if not, you just brace yourself for the third one and block it if you can. Okay, so he blocks that one, so we're not threatening mask yet. And this is kind of that scenario I really like to be in where either he has to block this flame with the Crater Fist, or we get to pick up the flame and E-strike for 7 and say, you can give me all the tempo, or you can take damage and give me a card. And he chooses to give me tempo. He certainly can do some reasonable things off of 2 cards. Likely just a weapon swing, yep, for 4. So I draw into not the best hand. It's a pretty interesting one. So the Ancestral has no cards to target. Um, we don't have like a real starter. We either have to play the Flame Call and not get the value, or the better line here, we just throw the Flame for 0, get a Draconic Chain Link, play a red, which allows us to Flame Call and tutor. Um, and again, it's not the best turn, but we're decently ahead on life, and we get to threaten Lava Burst, which is just good enough. We also get to go 5 attacks wide if we want, which is nice. So here I'm doing the play where, because we have to pitch a red, tutor the Phoenix Flame, we can now trigger Furnace, leveraging that flame for 2 resources. So instead of a 1 attack, we get 3. So I choose not to Arsenal the Flame there, which I think is a reasonable play. Against the Guardians, part of our game plan is to not Arsenal if we can help it, unless it really makes sense to. Just to, again, further deny their different hit effects like the Disables and Command and Conquer. Okay, so here we have a slightly awkward hand again. We have a Belittle with a target, but the target is our only blue card, which is not ideal. Curious to see what we do. We take 6, again, vanilla damage. Don't care too much about, especially with this health lead. Bravo's almost in range that we're presenting lethal every turn. So here we do pitch the red to get to a blue. I think we're just doing this to kind of keep the pressure on, which I think you need to be doing at this point. You don't want to get hit by the wrong disruption effect and let Bravo start looping you. So with only 1 Draconic Chain Link, we couldn't really threaten Mask with an attack action. He was blocking 3 anyway, so it was pretty fine. Here again, I'm debating, do I set the flame, do I play the flame? And again, I just don't want to give him the potential to come back by taking a card from me for free, or forcing an inefficient block. So we just chip the damage, he's at 3, I'm at 20, this is a great spot. I don't know, barring something like a Crippling Crush. So we actually draw another pretty awkward hand. I'm curious what I end up doing here. I think this is the type of hand where you kind of just have to go Lava Burst, Snap, just to threaten enough. The fact that he's at 3 is extremely critical here. Like, this hand is not very efficient, but being able to threaten lethal multiple times is quite strong. So again, we have no real targets for that Ancestral. We could target the Lava Lane Loyalty, but not planning to play it. Okay, this makes way more sense. Yeah, so he kind of advertised that he'd be going into the weapon swing after that attack. So I decided to what I think was the most efficient play is to get good block value because I had a bunch of 3 blocks there, and then just throw the snatch, which threatens lethal, but also asks for 2 cards, or I get to draw a card. Um, which at this late in the game I think is extremely strong. He had the sink below, which is really good timing. If he doesn't have a 0 for 4 there, I think it's the game pretty much just ends. Again, he's just throwing vanilla damage, so this hand's good enough. Just take it. Blittle and Flame Call Awakening work nice together. We get the blue, so we can then go Flame Call Weapon, bunch of flames. And now we're just at that point where we're going so wide and presenting lethal so many times that we should get his whole hand here, and then we should end the game in a turn or two. So our game plan, I'd say, pretty much worked out as we drew it up for this one. Got a little lucky with that one sink below, but we were able to kind of stuff the disruption effects and then just play our hands to max efficiency, blocking when it was more valuable and tanking their vanilla damage to pressure their health total. Yep, so you see the Bravo pass. And this is where the loop kind of just begins. Every attack is going to threaten lethal, besides Phoenix Flame, but when you have 2, that adds up to a lethal. So he takes the first one, goes to 1. Now we're going to get a card, end on Soulbeat Strike, and he needs to have a D-React or we win right here. Yep, and he just gives up.